because that's going to take me into something that might be controversial for a lot of people
Wow,
outside
my
of
lord.
myself. You already know where I'm going with it, right?
Yeah, go ahead and get it off.
It's my disdain for Scottie Pippen. You know, of
Oh,
course, good player. I mean, I would even say he was a great player. But a top 50 player, especially at the time that this list was made, you know, we're talking about what, 95, 96, I think it was 96.
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah,
96.
been in the league for years, some years, got some championships, part of a championship squad, of course, legendary Bulls team, and was an instrumental part to that team. But especially now, 25 years later, does he stay on the list for me? I say he comes off the list. Um, because you're part of a great team, and in my opinion, part of what made him great was who he was playing with and the system that he was playing in. Not saying that he wasn't a very, very skilled basketball player, but to be a top, like the cream of the crop, like the top 50 in 75 years player, I don't put him there personally. That's my personal opinion.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to do this. This is rhetorical for
Hmm.
you to answer this yourself. But so you got 25 players that you would put ahead of Scottie Pippen since the year 1996 to now.
Yes.
I would
I,
love to
when
test you, but I'm not
I'm
going
not
to.
gonna,
But I would love to
yeah, yeah,
test you.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not gonna say that I can give it to you all off the top right now, but I'm pretty sure if I sit down, I can give you 25 players over Scottie Pippen in 2021.
Let me ask you this. Here's a random, accurate comparison, but random. Uh, T Mac or Pippen? Who makes the list between them two?
I'm glad you mentioned. I had this argument years ago. Years ago, we're talking about maybe 6, 7 years ago. I had this conversation, and I brought up that name. I brought up T Mac, and I brought up Scottie Pippen, and I said, who do you think it was greater? In my opinion, T Mac was light years better than Scottie Pippen. If you put T Mac with Michael Jordan in 96, 92, 93, 97, T Mac does what Scottie Pippen does and more. If you just look at the numbers, if you look at the eye test, if you look at how, you know what I'm saying, how he played, the type of player that he was. Look at how Kobe Bryant speaks about how T Mac was as a player. You know, Kobe Bryant even says me better, taller. He can do everything I can do, and he's taller. And this is Kobe Bryant, somebody who a lot of people put him in their top five, top three, top two, and he speaks on T Mac to say that T Mac was just as great as he was, and even taller, longer. You know what I'm saying? If
Okay,
you ask me,
so
T Mac way better than Scottie Pippen.
I'm devil's advocate in this situation, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to disagree that T Mac may have potentially been a better player than Scottie Pippen. But here's the devil's argument, a devil's advocate argument. Now,
Mm-hmm.
T Mac got to showcase. Okay, look at what. There's a certain type of game that Scottie had to adapt to having in order to play alongside Michael Jordan. Because
Right.
he was with Jordan his entire career. He came in under the NBA's sweetheart. So he had to adapt a certain game. When Jordan
Okay.
left, then he was going to have to make an adjustment and try to become something that he had not been his entire time in the NBA. Didn't quite make the adjustment where he could just be that solo player. Now you
Mm-hmm.
look at what T Mac was when he was under Vince Carter when they were
Right.
together,
Mm-hmm.
and you look what he became when he became his own man. Now T Mac could not play second fiddle. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? He
Yes.
had to get from up underneath him. So you make the argument he would have did more for Jordan. I don't know that his style of play would have allowed him to play for underneath a guy
Okay.
like Jordan and be successful.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think Pippen made some adaptations that were necessary in order to be on the team he was on. So he never really got to fully be what he possibly could have been. Let's say if he'd have came in the league on and played for his own team, maybe he would have had a different you'd have had a different outlook on the type of player he was. Maybe he would have evolved differently. T-Mac is a great offensive player, much better offensively if we're talking of scoring baskets only. If we're talking about being a facilitator, being a floor leader, we're talking about being a defender, is he? You know what I'm saying? Pippen was willing to do some blue-collar work out there.
True,
like
true.
And when he was needed to score, he could do it. But he did a lot of blue-collar work, man, like hitting the boards, defending the best player on the floor, coming down as a point forward. You know what I'm saying? And looking to set up offense before scoring himself.
Okay.
In a game where it was a lot of organization and it was come down, run a play, set this guy up, we do this and that. It wasn't all the isolation ball that it later on became. That people like T-Mac and Iverson and Kobe contributed to the league going more that direction.
Okay. I mean, and I can see the differences of the time, of course, differences of different systems. But even what you said with Scottie Pippen doing the blue collar work, T-Mac didn't necessarily do all of what Scottie Pippen did because that's not what he was asked for. He was, like you said, Michael Jordan was the darling of the league. Whatever squad T-Mac went to, he was the darling of that squad. So he did what he needed to do in his position. I need you to score this basketball. And he's going to score the basketball. That's what he's going out to do, to put the ball in the hoop. And he did it efficiently at a high level. You know what I'm saying? Which, you could make the argument to say that Scottie Pippen could have been or would have been maybe, but we don't know what he may not have become had he had to live up to his own expectations on his own team. It could have gone either way. So, you can make the argument to say that he could have been, the greatest superstar ever on his own team, but then that pressure, that pressure mounts. And we've seen a lot of skilled NBA players who have had to go out on their own team and wilted under the pressure or been crushed under the pressure. Very skilled players, even like a KD. We haven't even seen what he was able to do on his own just yet. And who can say that KD is not a highly skilled NBA player on both sides of the ball?
Okay.
So we can live in hypotheticals. All I'm doing is looking at what T-Mac produced versus what Scottie Pippen produced.
Okay, so come out of hypotheticals for a second and let's look at what they produced. Who really and truly brought the most value to their teams? Because Pippen did more than just score. You know what I'm saying? He was not needed for that. So we can't base it strictly on who was a better offensive phenomenon scoring the ball. You know what I'm saying? Or else guys like John Stockton got to come off the list if that's the case. You know what I'm saying?
You're not even looking at just scoring.
Pippen on both sides of the ball was I think he might have brought more value. You know what I'm saying? To what that Chicago Bulls team needed from him. If we look at his overall stats, I think he overall might not have been as fun to watch as T-Mac, but overall he might have brought more to the table. Maybe. I'm just arguing the point. Yeah. I'm not standing on that side of the stance. I'm just throwing it out there. It can be argued.
Well, look at this. Think back to 94, 95. When Scottie had the league to himself. He had the Bulls to himself.
Yeah.
And he did great those years. He produced. All
right. I was gonna say, let's be honest now. Don't downplay him. He did. They went to the semifinals.
They went to the semifinals. He produced. But playing the second for that many years, playing behind Jordan that many years, I would have to say that I would have wanted to see him produce more, given that opportunity and that stage. If this is what you were supposed to become, and this is what you could have become, had there been no Jordan, skill-wise, you had all these years to gain the skill set that you have and that you need, and then also learn from the greatest, side by side with the greatest. You had the opportunity in front of you. You couldn't even make it to the
Okay.
finals.
Give me an example of someone in a comparable scenario who had done that. And soon as the top guy went out, they came out and they took the team to where the team went with the top guy.
Well, I would say, I mean, that's unfair to say. That's unfair to say because nobody's been
Nobody's
Jordan.
done it.
No, I'm not saying that
Okay, so
nobody's done it. Kobe Bryant did it to a degree. Granted, it took him some years.
How long did it take?
Yeah, it took him some years. It took him some years.
Okay.
But he did it without Shaq. But it's hard to say because nobody's ever had to play second to Jordan other than Pippen.